house.
The work rate from this woman is outstanding.
Things happen for Canada when she puts on a red jersey.
Paquin is away. Paquin for the corner. Karen Paquin go into the 22.
And welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. It's Jamie Gray coming to you again, back in Rosslyn, New Brunswick. And nice little intro there. Nice little starter package for our guest today, Karen Paquin. We'll get to her bio in a minute. But coming up is our contact information. Love hearing from you guys. Twitter at Canadian Ruck, Instagram, _Canadian_Ruck, Facebook at the Canadian Ruck, and our Gmail is thecanadianruck@gmail.com. It's been great having some conversations with people over the last couple of weeks via Gmail and getting some nice responses to some tweets. That's always great. Make sure when you're watching or listening that you're following and subscribing. We're on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Don't forget to share these out. You hear a great pod, like a lot of the guests we have, all the guests we have are great. Make sure that you're sharing them with your friends so they can listen to them while they're out for a drive or maybe while they're at work or doing whatever they're doing. Just make sure that you're getting the message out because it's great to honor these Canadian athletes and the few internationals we've had on. It's nice to hear their stories and it's nice to make sure those stories are shared. And worst case scenario, if you're struggling with where to go, just go to their website and just Google it. It's it's on Weebly. It's thecanadianruck.weebly.com. Head there. It's got links to all our pods. It's got some images of all our guests. It's got some, Zoom video links with all of our, with me and the guests. So it's a nice little section to make it easy to maneuver around for you and for anybody else. So all else fails, just go there. It's got our contact information there. Up now, rugby news. There's some really interesting things coming out from. There's a lot of interesting things happening in rugby news right now, but one that struck my eye today as I'm recording is Putin is backing the bid for Russia to host the 2027 Men's Rugby World Cup. Great. As of now, I believe Australia is the front runner, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be Australia. I really like Rugby Canada and Rugby USA to work together in getting on this bidding process. I think there's going to be a bid from them by 2031, but why not pump it up to 2027? Rugby USA declare bankruptcy. It's a great way to get some great financial backing for them. It easily could be a combo of Canadian sites and US sites that would make for amazing ventures. You could have one major city per pool, or you could break it down more, but you could look at Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, Montreal, and Halifax. You have Chicago, Vegas, Boston, New York, Colorado. Like you've got tons of different locations where you could have US sites, even down in New Orleans, all over the place. All right, there's a lot of different options you could use. Maybe use different cities for the knockout stages as opposed to the ones that you have for the pools. When you get to the semis, maybe both semis are in one location and the finals are in another altogether. Lots of different ideas, but I think if Rugby Canada and Rugby USA Brain Trust get together, I think they could hammer out a pretty strong bid. I'd love to see that happen. I know a lot of fans in Canada and the US would love to see that take place as well. On the women's side, it's going to be a busy 2021, especially for our ladies. The Olympics are in Japan, and the Rugby World Cup's in New Zealand. And the Olympics are late July through early August. So that's your sevens. And then the 15s, the World Cup in New Zealand, is July through August. So there's some overlap. So a lot of tough choices are going to have to be made by our women that kind of play on both sides of that 7s and 15s area. Both of those squads currently ranked third in the world. So there's some strong competition on the 7s and 15s for those spots. So our ladies are going to have to do a great job of making sure that they're committed to one program and moving forward as a 15s unit, as a 7s unit. But that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Our gray area this week is a follow-up from our last pod, and Twitter has spoken. A whopping 76% voted, said that I need to get off my butt and get on the pitch. Jamie Cudmore sent a message there, warns that I'm going to need a very long warm-up, and I don't doubt it. So if you didn't listen to last pod, let everybody know I'm 43. I haven't played rugby in 17 years. And this Thursday, July 30th, I'm going to be taking the pitch for my first rugby training session in 17 years, aside from coaching. So 17 years, that's, older than the kids that I coach nowadays. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. Even though it's just training, I've had a couple of sleepless nights because I don't want to look like an old fool out there with the younger guys. It's only touched right now because of COVID, so I'm feeling a little okay about that, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully this doesn't hinder my podcast career, but it should be fun. I know a couple of the old guys that still play that'll be out, so that'll be a lot of fun to reminisce with those guys, and I guess see what the new guys like at my old club are like out there with the Blau Rovers. Coming up next, we have Karen Paquin. Great, she was a great guest. Big personality, lots of laughs. Just constant smiling, and really seems to enjoy life and everything that it offers. Powerful loose forward for Canada. 2014, she won the Rugby World Cup silver over in France. In 2016, she got an Olympic bronze. In 2013, she got a World Rugby 7 silver. And then 2015, Pan Am gold. 2015, HSP 7's Women's Dream Team, which is a pretty cool accomplishment. So she's the All-Star that year. And then 2015, she was also Rugby Canada's 7th Player of the Year. So that was a nice little nod. And she did a lot of this while pursuing her chemical engineering at Laval. So, not a simple class. Chemical engineering doesn't sound very easy. And on top of that, she also does ice canoeing. And yeah, that is a legit sport. She sent me some links. It is pretty intense, to say the least. 5-person teams. You've got one giant canoe. And basically you push that canoe over snow and ice. And when the ice is broken up, you get in and you paddle. It looks quite dangerous, but it looks like a lot of fun. If you want to check it out, it's on YouTube. Just look up ice canoeing, the Carnival de Quebec, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's something she really enjoys. So take a few minutes and check that out. But coming up here in a few seconds will be a nice interview with Karen Paquin. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. And welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. We're fortunate today to have 7-15-star Karen Paquin.
That's all right.
Sorry, just before the pod, she was making sure I say her name right, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't right, but seeing how she's laughing, I know it's okay. My name's easy. It's only got 4 letters. It's only 1 syllable. I know. Old New Brunswick white guy. I don't know what to tell you. All right, Karen, welcome to the Ruck.
Thank you.
All right, so let's jump right in here. How did you get involved with rugby? How did you get started?
I started when I was in high school, and it was my volleyball coach. So I did like multiple sports growing up, and secondary 3, or what you'd call, I think, grade 9. My volleyball coach told me, "Hey, we're starting a rugby team. You and another one, my friend Isabel. You should give it a try. You're gonna like it. You can hit people. It's made for you." So I went to the practice and didn't look back.
The rest is kind of history then.
I guess, yeah.
So you started in high school. You played 2 or 3 years there, I imagine, and then from there you went on to Laval University. Talk to us, I guess, about playing at Laval. Also, while you were taking a chemical engineering, like that's not something that's simple.
Yeah, so I actually, between high school and university, there's Cégep in Quebec, and those are 2 or 3 years that you go through. It's really an in-betweener, and like you can choose science or social studies or languages or whatever you want. So I took science, but I also went to an English Cégep, and my first language is French. So I pretty much learned to speak in English when I was 17. And so my grades kind of went down a bit, and I did what I could, and I was playing rugby and doing volleyball and doing all that stuff. And so when I went to university, first of all, I thought, let's go back in French. So Laval was kind of the choice. And the other thing, I needed a program that would accept me no matter the grades.
Chemical engineering? Wow.
Yeah, so the way it works apparently with engineering is the first year is hard enough that it just takes everybody out that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
And it really does. So our program started with something like 50 people, and we ended up with something like 20 after 4 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I went into that not really knowing what it was going to be, but I wanted to work in the field of environment. Like, so something, I wanted to work in industries, but in environment. So not necessarily waving the flag that climate is changing, but actually doing steps with the bad guys. So that was my goal, and engineering was a path for that. So that's how I chose it.
That's pretty cool. So you're taking this chemical engineering, you're playing university level rugby, and at the same time you're getting feelers, I guess, for the national side. How did help playing at Laval, maybe the time management with taking chemical engineering, which to me does not sound easy, how does that help you prepare to challenge for a spot on the national rosters?
Well, for me, rugby, my goals were not really to play on the national team. It was to play as much rugby as I could. And during my university, so I took 5 years to do the 4-year degree because of mostly rugby, but I was also doing ice-canoeing at the same time. So I wasn't good enough to play volleyball at university, so I needed another sport, and I did ice-canoeing and rugby. I was also working almost full-time, so I was kind of living a life that didn't have enough sleep and enough time to train. And I'd say I wasn't really focused on anything. I was doing a lot of things. And so I did my 5 years of university with the highs and lows of the university season. Anyone who's gone through, I guess, that path knows that every year, each year is really a new journey. So I played as much as I could, and we finished on a bronze medal at the national championship. So it was a good time. And then from there, I kind of thought that my whole rugby career was about to end. So I moved on and I went to work for about a year. But I kept playing rugby with my club, CRQ, and the provincial team. And that year, I made the move from playing in the centers to playing flanker. And I think that's, yeah. So that's kind of what opened up a new world of possibilities. And that's where I was more looked at by the national team coach. So from there, I went to a few camps, and next thing I knew, he was asking me to move out west to centralize with the sevens team. And so I quit my job, I packed my car, and Mags and I just drove 50 hours straight to Victoria.
That would have been a fun car ride, I imagine.
At times.
At times. So, yeah, I had Magley on a little while ago, and she was quite the character, very fun, and she was one of my favorite guests, just really personable and could laugh at herself, and she laughed at me quite a few times, so that was enjoyable.
I'm sure she did.
Just on a side here, this is something that as a coach and as somebody that works with youth quite a lot, I preach this about multi-sport athletes, and this is one of the questions I sent you, so hopefully it doesn't put you on the spot, but I've noticed over the last number of years there's been a trend where athletes are kind of trending just to do one sport. But you're talking about, you were playing volleyball, you're playing rugby, you're playing ice canoeing, which I have absolutely zero idea what that is, and I'm probably ashamed to say that. But I mean, I was the same. I played soccer, volleyball, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, rugby, like everything. But nowadays, it's hard to get kids interested in rugby sometimes because they've got hockey aspirations, or they've got basketball aspirations, or soccer aspirations. Can you tell us the importance of you being a multi-sport athlete, how that helped you reach a national level? Did it, do you think?
Oh, I'm positive that it did. I think every sport that I played gave me tools that I can use on the rugby field. And especially rugby. I mean, rugby is so complete. There is so much going on, and you need so many skills, even like perfect or not. Like obviously a prop needs to scrum to the perfection. But I think it's so important to build your toolbox early on. And I think that's what all those sports did for me, like building my cardio base in swimming, and then had I played soccer, I could kick now. And, it's like jumping and power from volleyball. And I mean, ice canoeing is a lot of footwork. So it's all that transfers on the rugby field. And some people are saying like that we shouldn't do one sport too early. For me, it's you shouldn't do one sport end of the sentence. Like I went back and between the World Cup and between the World Cup and now I went back to Calgary to learn bobsled, and there's so many tricks that I learned in that 1 month of doing bobsled that I can transfer on the rugby field. Like there's so many skills that you need, and they're all transferable.
Is ice canoeing bobsled? Is that just another name for it?
It is not the same thing,
Okay.
but bobsled and ice canoeing also have similarities. But I invite you to YouTube it. You'll
going to. Are you on YouTube for ice canoeing?
I exist on YouTube in an ice canoe. Yeah.
I would like you to send me that, because I'd like to add that into the intro if you wouldn't mind.
I'll try to find it.
I'll try. You know exactly where it is. So I love that you're saying that, because I had Heather Moyse on, and I'm not sure if you know Heather, if she was still playing with you.
Of course.
She played rugby, but she also, bobsledding at the same time, training for both at the same time. She was Pan Am Games for cycling, and she was, I think, 27 or 28 when she started bobsledding. So I agree 100%. Like, why do you have to pigeonhole yourself in one thing and not explore other options to make yourself a more well-rounded athlete, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Okay, so let's jump in here, because you've played some pretty big events with Canada, right? You got a silver at the Rugby World Cup in 2014. I think that was in France. 2016 Olympics bronze, which is pretty impressive. 2013, which was the first time rugby was in the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. 2013 Olympics 7 silver. Do I have that misquoted?
It's misquoted. It's the World Cup, Rugby World Cup in sevens. Silver.
World Cup 7 silver. And 2015 Pan Am gold, which is pretty cool. Can you talk to us about those different events, like the difference between Rugby World Cup in France and in Europe, which would be amazing. Then you've got the Olympic aspect, and then you've got the World Cup sevens aspect. Can you talk to us about the events themselves and maybe the pressure you face, the camaraderie that kind of happened with you and your teammates?
I think they're all so different. But the biggest one is obviously the World Cup, the 15s World Cup, because it's the rugby event. It's not the sport event, it's the rugby one. So everybody who's there, player, coach, staff, fans, everybody loves rugby. So it's pretty special to step in that kind of environment. And for us in 2014, I'm going to say that, like, aside from our team and maybe some of our parents and friends and our staff, no one really believed in us. We were going to show up and play each game and do our best. But we were the only one that believed we could go somewhere and achieve something at that World Cup. And the feeling that we had when we won the semifinal against France, in France, on that field, it was such a tight, tough game. I don't think I've played in a game that was such like hard hitting. It was not perfect, but it was so tough. And it was also at the beginning of like this social media world. And I think we felt like rugby was put on the map in Canada. And that was different for probably for European teams, but for us it felt like women's rugby just started like exploring, like it started being on the map for anyone, and any girl could now see what our sport was and could know that it existed, and that wasn't the case before. So I think that was very, very special. And I mean, the other events, they're all so different. I don't know if you want me to kind of go down the list, but
it's entirely up to you. Like this is a chance for you to tell us what your feelings were. Like I remember watching the 2014 World Cup, and it was, as a Canadian at home, just mesmerized by what your team was doing. It was amazing. But you're right, like rugby in Europe, it's one of these sports. But then you go to, to the Olympics, and rugby sevens, it's new to the sport, it's new to the event, and you've got all these, you've got Usain Bolt there running, you've got all these other things that are happening that's taken away from it, but you still walk out with a bronze. The atmosphere there, that the athletes you would have seen, that must have been pretty spectacular.
It really was. And the Olympics took everything, like from a rugby perspective, it took it to another level, as like it actually put rugby in every single TV in our country, like everybody heard of it, and it felt like the nation fell in love with our sport over the first 2 days of competition, and we were pretty early in the games. And for us, what was like our goal as players is to create that bubble that we don't get distracted by the fact that it's the Olympics, it's the biggest stage. It was the first time that any of us has gone to the Olympics, because no one had in rugby. So being there, we created that bubble, and we were pretty good at it. I mean, I felt like when we stepped on the field the first day, all I remember is thinking, okay, it's the same grass, same lines, same refs, same teams that we play against. Everything was the same. So we were like, okay, this is similar to our World Series. We've done this before. We can do it again, no problem. And then the first day happened. Everything goes well. The second day, we drop our game, and like they kill us. Like UK just beat us. I think it was 22-0. So that was like a little bit of a shock. But then we still went through, because that was the last pool game. We placed in the top 8, and then we were playing against France. And I think in my whole, up until that point, it was the moment that I felt the most pressure on a rugby field ever. It was so tense to play in that quarterfinal, because it's the one game that decides if you go top 4 or if you don't.
Was that internal pressure, or pressure from your teammates or coaches, or?
The pressure was from everywhere. It was just like you could feel it. And usually, like, I always have like a little bit of like stress or like nervousness or anxiety, whatever you want to call it, before the game. But I'm like, well, after we hear the whistle, everything's gonna be fine. But then like the game started, and I was like, I'm still nervous. It was it was really tense. And I think I'm not the only one who felt it. We knew how important that was for us, but also like we wanted to make everybody proud and make everybody learn about our sport. And it was so important. So that game was stressful. And it was not a perfect game. We won. But it's always hard to play against the French. They're a good team. They're a physical team, and they play with heart. It was not perfect, but taking that game was very important.
And you got through, like you said, you got through and you won the bronze, which is, super impressive. And you were supposed to be going there this year for the 2020, but it's pushed off. Saying that after the Olympics, you had a pretty bad knee injury in 2017.
Yeah, so after 2016, I went back home, obviously, and I trained for the 2017 World Cup, which was in Ireland, for 15s. So I gave up my karting. I went back to train from home, and I did the whole year to prepare for the World Cup. And during the second game of the World Cup, I tore my meniscus in the right leg, in the right knee.
That's painful.
It's painful.
Yeah.
It really is. And I didn't really know what it was. At first, I thought it was just a lateral ligament or something. Anyways, so finish a game. Things are good. I go to the hospital, get an MRI, and they're like, okay, you have a pretty big tear in your meniscus. We can operate you. And I'm like, okay, am I going to be ready to go in 5 days? Because I have a game in 5 days.
No.
And the doctor was like, absolutely not. I was like, well, why are we discussing this then?
Tape it.
let's do something else, you know, let's not go that route. So we ended up just draining my knee, because like the biggest part was that I couldn't really bend it because it was so swollen. So we stuck a needle in there. I was all courageous until I saw the needle go in my knee, and I was like, oh my God. So,
Fair enough.
right? Like, oh, I'm good. Oh, hold my hand. And then I was like, okay, then I'll be able to play. It's all gonna be okay. And we played that third game, which was our pool game, which was against New Zealand. And in 2017, there was only one way that was possible. It was to either we were going to win the tournament or we were going to finish fifth. We had to beat the best team in the world at that point in order to move on. And if we could beat them, then we could win the whole tournament. But we knew that pool game was basically our quarterfinal. Because of the way the tournament is set up, there is no quarters, so it's only top 3 and the best second, and best second is a roll of dice, right? So we go there, we play as well as we could, which wasn't enough, and then we step off the field and we're like, I felt empty, and I felt like I burnt my boat. But this was like mid-World Cup. And I wasn't alone. Like, we were all going there to win. And coming short of that goal was so hard. And having to, like, rebuild ourselves for the next game, which was in, like, 5 days or so. It was so, like, as a team, we did it, I think, around Kelly. Kelly, our captain, was incredible during that time. But like to rebuild our team and to create something in order to finish the tournament right, was one of the toughest challenges, like, in sport that I've lived. And for me, having that injury, like, I had to question if I even wanted to keep playing, because I mean, my knee had swollen again, and I was like, okay, what do I do? And I chose to play, and I chose to finish with the group and everything. And we finished really well, which was, I think it made us all make sense. But finishing fifth was obviously at that point the best we could do. But we were really proud of how we finished and how we played for each other and together, and how we represented our country at that point. And then I came back home and I was like, okay, let's move on. So I tried to heal my knee, and that's kind of where I started my journey of the ups and downs of injury. And I had never really lived that. Like, I've been injured a lot, but I had the reputation of, like, I break a lot, but I heal quick. And somehow it didn't happen that time. So a meniscus injury shouldn't be really hard to heal. If anything, you need a little scope, you scope it out, and a couple months later, you're good to go. So I tried to heal it without the surgery. Then I got the first surgery, and it started like a couple of weeks later. Things are not really better. What's happening? Get a few like injections of all kinds of things.
Cortisone and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know, like, I don't know, there's cortisone, and then there's synovial fluid and stuff like that. We tried it all. I think there was like 5 injections or so.
And you don't like needles?
I don't like needles. I don't like them when they're like 10 centimeters long.
Fair enough.
And when they go inside of my knee. Some people are really good at poking them, though. Some people it doesn't hurt, and sometimes it's not the same.
Well, you know, it's their own, I guess, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it was all the ups and downs of injuries, and And I got to a point where it was like, I was so tired of getting hopeful and getting back down and getting hopeful and getting back down that I got to a point where I just didn't know how long it was going to take. And that was it. And my goal at that point was I wanted to get rid of that swelling and that pain in order to play rugby again and decide what I wanted to do. So I went back for a second surgery, and they found a second tear that was causing the swelling to remain. And then from there, it went back up. But at that point, it had already been a full year of like limping and not being able to train. So I had to rebuild myself as an athlete. So it took a lot more than the initial like 3 months that it could take if you get a scope. It took me about 6 months to rebuild my whole body. And when I stepped on the field for the first time, my very first game of rugby was actually in France against Japan. Because of winter, apparently winter happened and games got canceled. And next thing I knew, I was off to France to play my first game. And like, I remember my first tackle, and I was like, I got up and I was like, ah, I still got it. We're all going to be okay.
That's good. Yeah, you're just the perseverance and dedication are two things, but you talk about being injured during the World Cup. You know, you come out 5th, which is hard. You can still, as you're talking, I can tell that's still a tough pill to swallow for you. But you're out there hobbling around on one knee, and I'm sure a lot of your teammates were banged up pretty badly as well. But it shows your true character as a team player, that you wanted to get back on the field even after you lost that game and you had to regroup. Like, you could have just thrown in the towel and said, you know what, my knee hurts too much. I'm done. But you didn't want to leave your teammates high and dry, and that is very commendable. And then the fact that, you know, you go through your surgery, it's not healing, you keep trying to persevere, you realize I need a second surgery, and all that grit and determination, that's something that not a lot of people have today, and athletes for sure. So that's, I hope when listeners hear this, they can take something out of that, you know, that grit, that determination that you showed in 2017 and 2018, and the heart and character you showed during the World Cup to play and not let your teammates down. I think that is, those are very highly commendable traits. So hats off to you for that as a Canadian. You know, thank you very much for doing that. Saying that, we've got, you know, the 2020 Olympics were supposed to happen this year, and they're pushed off. What is that doing for you?
It was a blindside hit for me.
Sucks, right?
Yeah, it really, it took the wind out of me, literally, for a couple of weeks. It was hard to hear that, like, your goal, it's not that you're falling short of your goal. I was ready. Maybe I'm going to be hurt. Maybe I'm going to be not selected. Like, all those reason not to go to the Olympics were, I knew that they existed and I knew they were possibilities, but the fact that the Olympics were not going to happen that right now, I mean, almost, was not expected at all. So when they announced it, I was devastated, and then I cried for about 12 hours, and then I moved back home because I was in Victoria at that time, and my husband was here in Quebec. So I packed my apartment, took my dog, and drove across the country in a U-Haul. And it was all in that weird, like, obviously the pandemic, like, if we remember the first stages, there was so much fear around and so much, like, uncertainty, and we didn't know what was going to happen. So it was really hard to accept. But then I kind of moved into that, like, action mode. So I guess I hid myself in that action mode for a couple of weeks. But, like, even right now, I'm still, like, it's still hard to believe that we're going to have, like, another full year of doing that, but not knowing really the parameters. Like, we don't know how we're going to be able to train. We don't know Like we do know when we're going to get together, but we don't know what it's going to look like. So it's really hard. But one thing for me, again, that came as an evidence is there's no way I can quit. Like it's just not really something I can do. And it's good in a way, but like it puts a lot of pressure on myself. So
Good pressure, though.
yeah, it's good pressure, and like it keeps me going. And when it's hard, like because it's hard like a couple of days a week these days, it's just like I know that if I was to quit, I would be regretting it for a long time. So I think that's kind of where I went. And like I don't want to end my career on something like that. And for me, it was always important, like after my injury, like what came to me is that I chose rugby again. And it forced me to like actually make the choice of like not staying in that status quo or not moving on to another chapter in my life. I really chose to go back to rugby with all it took and to earn my stripes again and to work towards that goal. So I think I fall back on that, and I'm thinking that like rugby is my passion. I love it and I want to keep playing for now. So that's where I go when I need the motivation.
I think that's pretty fair and reasonable. So we're going to switch gears right now. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to do our quick fire section. So I got about 20 questions, and I don't want you to think a whole lot, but just have fun. Some of them are geared toward you as a player, and some of them are geared towards you as a person. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So question 1: best team you ever faced?
I have to say New Zealand.
2017?
No, I'm going to say New Zealand in sevens, I think this year, because no matter what we throw at them, they always win.
Tough squads. Best player you ever faced?
I want to say Kayla McAllister.
Okay. Toughest player you ever faced? So what I usually tell people with this one is it's a 1v1. They have the ball, and you're not looking forward to try and tackling them.
Hillary Leith.
That was quick.
She's Canadian. She's strong. I've had to practice and play a lot against her, and it's never fun.
Fair enough. All right. Sevens or 15s?
To that, I answer my body goes to sevens and my heart goes to 15s.
Oh, taking the Canadian approach where you don't want to offend any of your teammates.
Yeah.
Best match you were ever a part of? I think I know this one.
Against France in
Semis?
In the semi. Yeah.
Yeah. Your favorite rugby tradition?
Shoot the boot.
There you go. How many times have you done it?
Too many.
All right. Best team you ever played with?
Best team I ever played with. Our team, I think. Yeah, the Canadian team. I want to say if I go back to 1 year, I want to say in sevens. I think it's 2015 when we won in Amsterdam. We were pretty damn good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Your nickname?
Paco.
Paco?
Yeah.
All right. What's the best nickname you've heard for any other player?
Oh. Pancake.
Like you know him. Pancake Face.
But I'm not going to say whose name that is.
Will they listen to this and know it's them?
Hopefully not.
I'm going to have to Google that, see if I can find it. Any rugby super Pancake Face. Oh, that's good. Any rugby superstitions?
I don't have superstitions, but before games I put a lot of tape on my body, and none of it is to hold an injury.
That sounds like a superstition then. All right. So I asked this one as well. Have you watched the Last Dance documentary, the Jordan documentary on Netflix?
I haven't yet. Haven't had
Okay.
time. I'm doing Renos, I told you.
Fair enough. All right. Oh, we'll skip that one. We'll skip that one. All right. Anybody that you would take on a golfing trip with you.
On a golfing trip?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I take
It could be
Alyssa.
anybody. It can be a player. It could be somebody that's dead. It could be anybody.
Oh, anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a second. I'm taking,
Are you
well,
crossing Alyssa off now?
well, maybe not. She's pretty good at golf, so I'll have her on my team. I want Trevor Noah. I think
Oh yeah, he's hilarious.
hilarious. So he would make it fun. And who else would I take?
Your husband?
Yeah. No, I see him all the time.
That's fair enough. That's good.
I'm gonna go with Michelle Obama.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, she'd add some class to that group, I think.
she would.
All right. Chips or cookies?
Chips.
What kind of chips?
All dressed.
All dressed. Mm.
Yeah, but not the rippled ones. The flat
Oh,
ones.
they've got to be rippled.
No.
Yeah, they've got to be rippled.
Nah.
All right. French fries or onion rings?
Oh, French fries.
French fries or poutine? How Quebec are you? There you go. Favorite beer?
La Batte 50. La Batte 50.
Okay. Yeah, we don't get that here anymore, I don't think, in New Brunswick.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Guilty pleasure?
Sleeping in the morning.
What time did you get up today?
Probably 15 minutes before the call.
Well done. Well done. All right. Best place for a post-match beer?
Somewhere in the woods where there is no camera and no internet.
Very good. Very good answer. All right. I know you're right in your house right now, but you have to have some downtime. So what series would you be binge watching right now?
Right now, we just finished The Good Doctor.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
All right. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. Can I pass? I don't know. I
Okay.
don't watch a lot of movies.
Okay. Who spins the music in the dressing room before matches?
Anyone but me.
That bad, eh?
I just have tastes that don't match anyone else. Probably like Juvie or a Charity or something like that. Oh, actually, you know what? Liv Apps is really good.
Is she?
Oh, yeah. She's a good
So,
DJ.
If you and your husband invite me over to help with renos, what music am I listening to while we're working?
You're probably listening to me and him bickering at the renos.
So whatever I have on my phone and my headphones, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Who would play you in the Netflix movie of your life?
I don't know. Maybe write a book instead of making a movie.
Okay.
No one has to play me.
That's fair. All right. We'll write a book instead. Okay. Who had the biggest impact on you as a player?
As a player, I think somewhere between, like it has to be coaches, right? And
It can be.
well, Bill McNeil had a pretty big impact. And obviously I spent so much time with on the national team with John. So somewhere between Bill, John, and François Ratier. Actually, you know what? Gary. I'm going to give it to Gary. Gary Duplo.
So what was he to you?
He's the scrum coach.
Okay.
But he's also a mentor, and his vision of life, of rugby, of the team has had like probably the biggest impact on
Awesome.
me and on us as a team. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's it for the quick fire. So you did well. You answered all of them except for who would play in a movie. We can always circle back to that at another time if you want.
I have to Google people. Like, I don't know their name. I'm so bad at it.
That's all right. I only got a few questions left. I'm gonna throw an extra one at you here just because of what you said about Gary. You mentioned some great coaches that have helped you as an impact on a player. But you talked about Gary as a scrum coach, but you also talked to him about life skills in a sense. What's the importance to you as an athlete, having a coach or having that mentor or having that somebody that's in that position that cannot teach you just the technical side of the game, but also teach you to understand life a little bit better? How important is that, or is it important as a player?
I think it's huge. Because we can be good players on the field, but to play good rugby as a team, you need the soul. You need everything to be connected. And I think that's what Gary brings. He brings that connection between players. And for me, it's like we can be good and represent the country on the field and still not have an impact outside. So I think it's really important to also develop ourselves as persons and having like a strong identity. And it comes like it's obviously it's not a learning curve that just goes up and up and up. Like you kind of have to redefine yourself all the time. And yeah, that's one thing that Gary brings to his coaching practices, and every time that he steps on the field with us, he's trying to be inventive and redefine the new norm and challenge everyone. So I think that's where he's such an important figure of our Canadian team.
That's great. I think I agree. I think those are things that you need. Not all coaches can be like that, but you definitely need some on the staff that are able to help with the soul aspect of it, as you said. That's great. What are your thoughts on what makes a great team player?
For me, it's someone who's going to fight for the team, who's going to fight for what's best for the team. And again, that's both on and off the field. And if you go specifically on the field, I think it's important to be selfless and not think about how you can score or how you can shine, but how you can make other people shine around you. I think one really good example of that mentality right now is Kayla Molesky. Like the way she plays, she's just so good. And every time she's on the field, everybody shines a little bit better. So yeah, I think that's how you see the team players. Everybody else just shines a little brighter.
It sounds like you're talking about leadership attributes as well.
For sure.
Yeah, if you're a great leader, your goal and focus is to make everybody else around you better, not just yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
As a rugby player, what do you want to be remembered for? 20 years now, you're having in 2034, you're having the 20-year reunion of the 2014 silver medal. What do you want those teammates to remember about you?
I hope that they remember that I was intense and that I was committed. And that's to me, that's pretty much all. That's the base of who I want to be as a player. I commit to what I do and I show up and I give all I have.
I think that's good. So intense and committed. So I'm going to assume that when you and your husband are arguing about renos, you win.
Yes, I do.
Apologize to him for me there.
I commit to my fights.
I think that's fair. All right. So we spoke a little bit beforehand. You've got your chemical engineering degree. You dabbled in it for a little bit before you started the national team. You're not really sure. You're talking about, maybe going into that when rugby's done, but do you have any concrete plans for after rugby? You're just taking it a year at a time right now?
I'm not going to call them plans, but I think there's a few things that I want to do. Like I'd like to build a pro league for women in Canada.
Nice.
That's kind of
Awesome.
my dream. I think we can do it. I think we have the country to do it, and we have definitely the players to do it. So, yeah, I think that's one of my goals for after I'm done playing. And then I'm gonna have to find a job so I can not starve.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So probably go back to engineering. Try it out at least if I like it. Otherwise, I'll go into something else. But I also really want to have enough time to stay involved in rugby and in sport, and keep promoting sport for kids and for girls especially, because I think it's really important to keep pushing for them to remain active. I strongly believe in that, so I want to keep working at that.
Awesome. Last question. Any great rugby stories you can share with us? And feel free to throw Pancake Face or anybody else under the bus.
I'm gonna leave Pancake Face out of that one. I think I'm gonna go to there's a few obviously, but one of the good ones is it's a cute one almost. I've been for most of my career I roomed with either Mags or Kelly. But Kelly listens to I don't know, sometimes the TV that she listens to, it's the dumbest shows. and she falls asleep to TV, and I can't fall asleep until it's dark and black. So then she was I think it was the day before a tournament, and she was watching that stupid movie about I don't know, Tom Cruise was on Mars or something like that.
Okay.
It was a boring movie. And I turned my head and I'm like, come on, Kelly, can't you just shut the TV? And I'm just patiently waiting and respecting her TV time. That movie finished at 1 a.m. and I'm there and I'm just watching. After that, I'm like, okay, I'm turning off the TV. I get up, I turn off the TV. She had fallen asleep with her glasses on her face. So she's been sleeping for 2 hours, and I've been watching stupid movie.
You thought she was up because she had her glasses on.
She literally fell asleep on her back, propped on her pillows with glasses on. How am I not to know that she's watching that stupid movie?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even get halfway through that movie when I shut it off. So
God, it was bad.
Oh, so you don't room with her anymore, right?
No. No, we've had more good times than bad times, but I still remember that one.
Yeah, you gotta have you have to have a good bunkmate there, so make sure you get your sleep and everything right. Well, listen, Karen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Had a lot of good laughs. It was nice hearing your story. Any last thoughts you want to say to our listeners before you go, or are you happy with what you said?
I'm kind of happy, but yeah, I thank you first of all for bringing the community together. I think what you're doing is great, and I've been listening to your podcast, so it's kind of nice to have the opportunity to share my story, but it's really nice to hear everyone else's piece. I think it's huge for the game.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you jumping on and taking time out of your Reno schedule there, and wish you nothing but the best of luck the rest of your career.
Thank you.
Cheers. Great stuff, Karen. Thanks very much for joining us on the pod today. Great chatting with you, great stories, great laugh, great personality, and a very determined, skilled, and powerful rugby player. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. Hopefully you can come back on again another time and share some more rugby stories with us. That was awesome. Coming up next, we got some great guests. We got Jeff Hassler on deck. He'll be up early next week, maybe this weekend. We'll see how it goes. Shortly after that, we'll have Ray Barkwill. And we have Nadia Popov, and her conversation is an interesting one as well. And then we have legendary Canadian Mark Wyatt. He'll be joining us as well. And then shortly after that, we got a nice round table set up. This will be fun. We've got Jeff Hassler, Tyler Ardrin, Josh Metavisi, and Kieran Funatia. Josh and Kieran are from Fiji and Samoa, or Samoa and Fiji, I forget, but going to have a nice little international flair there. They both played internationally, and they both, I believe, have played with Jeff and Tyler for Bath, in Bath, or they're currently there, one or the other. As always, want to say a shout out and give a big thank you to the pandemic workers over the last 4+ months. Thank you very much for looking after all of us while we tried our best to stay safe. So thank you for putting your lives at risk and making sure we were looked after. As always, I'm going to say thanks to Ben Sound Music for supplying us with our tunes. And as always, team, anytime you feel like you have a request for topics or future podcasts, send me a note. I had a tweet the other day from David Castle, and David, right now, Hubert Bidens is committed. He'll be on soon. We also secured Brett Bukaboom, but we're still working on a couple of those other names you sent us, so we'll see what we can do. So until the next pod, this is Jamie. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and keep on rocking.